Welcome into the Bobby Carpenter Show. And as always, Wednesdays are for AJ.
Yeah.
Schleggs has got the hot call.
Get him.
So jarring and scary. Schleggs, what's going on?
Oh, is he not? Is he must not be here. He must not be here, Bob.
What's going on?
Now, hey, dude, nothing's going on. Here,
What do you think he's doing?
well, you know what? Here's what I think he's doing. Go ahead, throw that up there, Pat. It's in green. So this is an amazing thing. A young Cooper's hawk learned to use a crosswalk signal to launch surprise attacks on other birds. So I think happened to AJ today is that he transformed into his hawk self, and he secretly has been teaching hawks to use crosswalks and other signals to go attack other birds and animals and prey. And, kudos to him, man. He's trying to give his knowledge to the other members of his hawk family. So it's probably why he's not here. He's busy doing more important things, obviously, than being on the Bobby Carpenter Show.
Well, he is busy doing more important things. I was texting with him this morning. So usually he lets me know if he can't do it. And he said, school's out, camp season. He's like, I'm going to be busting it to get back at 1 o'clock for Pat. I said, I got you, man. All good. Appreciate the heads up. Keep using that crosswalk signal to launch surprise attacks on other birds. So he was pretty fired up about that, pretty passionate about it. Probably try to get him on then next week. I don't think we're going to be able to get him on Friday. I got a lot going on there, and I think he likes to get out to Memorial and turn into a zombie hawk, which is one of his favorite type of hawks of all time. I'll be heading up there, as well.
Zombie hawk is a good time. Good time.
Got a little mulching done today. My daughter do some mulching. That was good. I got some more. What's great? I've got some yard work. I'm finally going to get a chance to use that winch. I got to rip some bushes out. So
yes.
Pretty excited to have that.
Does your winch have the remote control? Did you get the one with the remote control, or do you got to do it on the winch?
What do you mean on the winch? Like
sometimes
winch.
You have it where
a winch is a bad person. A winch with an I is what you would be talking about here.
Winch? I don't know, but sometimes you got to plug in the remote onto the winch. Yep. You don't have a button.
It's a winch.
Sometimes you have a like I have on the Polaris. I got a remote control handheld that's around, and I can be out in the middle of the pond, and I can hit the and just boom, rolls it in. I like that
one. Wench, Schleggs. A wench is a young girl or woman or prostitute. A winch, what you're talking about, is the machine that you will pull and retract in. There, I have one that goes on. I didn't get a cordless one. Mine, you have to plug into the winch. Or I could use it. I have a switch that I can put inside the Jeep, which I haven't installed that yet.
Okay.
So, but I need to tear down cut some tree branches, pull out some bushes. I might do that here.
Sounds like an eventful Wednesday.
Yeah. Well, I want to get that done before the weekend. Just get some stuff done. I can get my chainsaw fired up. And
what kind of chainsaw do you use, Bob?
It's a Stihl.
Yes. Okay. That's good. You said enough.
Yeah. I think it's like a 20. What are the size blades on it? 20.
I don't know.
It's 20. It's not like a 19. It's not a little baby. It's at least got a 2 on it. It might be a 24-inch blade, I think, 22 or 24.
I got the Farm Boss.
Yeah, I've got a Farm Boss. I think it's 22.
You're good. You're good. Attack and dominate.
I do. Last year, when I cut through those giant ook trees that fell down on our farm.
Oh, I remember at the deal.
Dude, I burned through 3 chains. The last chain I think I could have put to my leg, and it would have just rubbed it to death. I think there was no sawtooth left on that thing at all. That oak was 80-year-old, super hard, just crazy town.
She said, yeah.
It was. There was a lot of row sparks that they had put in that wood to really firm it up, Schleggs, and make it nice and extra stiff. So we got that. So, yeah, I know AJ today, unfortunately. We do have a lot of good news, though, and I don't want to get too far away from Memorial Day. I want to make sure that we lead with this. We had our guy Hawk coming through there, and so we've got a lot of big news out of SEC media days that we're going to talk about, or the SEC coaches meetings. And so the Big Ten, they don't really publicize the way that they should. And that's unfortunate because we've seen Greg Sankey now at the podium multiple times talking about the future of college football, how that's going to look. The Big Ten did this 2 weeks ago. I don't know where they did it. It wasn't very prominent. They don't get the people there to promote it. I mean, Schlegs, maybe we can go out there and do the show there in the future and get them on and get all the different coaches. Listen to them talk about everything, future college football, what it looks like. Because you've got like two sects of people that you're trying to break out and trying to figure out here. And some of it is the coaches and what they want. And then some of it is more the administration, how they think it should ultimately look. And those two things are pretty close aligned, but there are some things that are different. But before we get to that, Pat Tillman, one of our favorites, more number 42 Schlegs at Arizona State. So a dude who I absolutely love. I was honored to wear that number then after I remember seeing that. And we're 40 with the Cardinals. If you don't know his story, left Arizona. They'd offered him like a huge deal as a safety. He's like an undrafted free agent, 7th round pick, linebacker in college, goes there and ends up becoming like a Pro Bowl player and just awesome. And is killed in the line of duty. Grew his hair out when he was in college and had it long in the NFL before ultimately getting it trimmed down when he went to the Rangers. That's why we all grew our hair out. And so I hadn't seen this, stumbled across it on Memorial Day. And I think this was him when he was with the Cardinals prior to him ultimately turning down that big second contract and going to serve his country.
National anthem is about a 10, actually. I get fired up for that. For whatever reason, I have a patriotic bone to me. So I really emotionally, I actually let myself go for that, but then I come right back down.
After the September 11th attacks and at the peak of his NFL career, Pat Tillman walked away from a $3.6 million contract. He left the Arizona Cardinals to serve his country. On April 22nd, 2004, the 27-year-old was on patrol just outside the village of Spira, near the Pakistani border. Tillman's family was told he charged up a hill, forcing the enemy to withdraw, saving the lives of his fellow Rangers before he was fatally shot. This even as accounts and evidence surfaced showing he was actually killed by friendly fire.
My great-grandfather was at Pearl Harbor, and a lot of my family has given up, has gone and fought in wars, and I really haven't done a damn thing as far as laying myself on the line like that. And so I have a great deal of respect for those that have and what the flag stands for.
Like they had the Toby Keith soundtrack there on the background.
R.I.P. to both of them, actually.
I know. Yeah, I mean, that's why we did it. Obviously, I had the background of going to a military academy, and we just had a lot of respect for him while we grew. What's that?
Nothing.
No, I said I'm cutting out. I'm sorry. Let me get my
mic. I said he got kicked out.
Yeah, no, I did not get kicked out. I left in a cadet with good standing. Could probably go back in, but it's one of those things where we that was why we did what we did, right? It was we weren't trying to do something cool. It was actually just to honor him and honestly, like you go watch the way that he played, like. When people ask like, who do you root for? What team do you like? Like, I don't really root for teams. I root for guys that play the game that I think in the way it should be played. And Pat was one of those guys that played the game with fire and passion that we had, Bob. And so it was part of that. It was part of what he decided to do for this country, and in a way to commemorate him. We grew our hair out. So something that you and I discuss all the time, talking with them, which we do need to do in his foundation of how we can bring more of that to Central Ohio. But anyways.
You got that on my to-do list. Like I had it and it's like got pushed down because you just have a million other things. Also doing show at Lucky's. I mean, literally it says that like right there, Pat Tillman, it's the foundation. I have one of their emails put together because they want to do an event with us here in Columbus, and we need to get that done.
Yeah, we do.
Watch that Sports Illustrated cover that's up there. There's been a lot of cool SI covers, the I'm Back with Jordan and everything else. But that, man, that is an iconic image of a dude that loved life, loved his country, and loved to play football, man. And he, all his teammates loved him. And so, I know we're 2 days out from Memorial Day, but man, when I saw that yesterday, I was like, we've got to get this in the show. It's something that we need to make sure that finds its way in, and just to be able to talk about him one more time. And it shouldn't just be one day a year. Like you said, Schlegs, like a lot of things we give a whole month to with Memorial Day, but Pat Tillman, really one of the iconic legends. And I know that AJ, with him not being here and this being like in his spot, he would definitely have approved of the Pat Tillman talk and the fact, like the national anthem, like you listen to a lot of stuff in pregame schlikes, and I mean, I'm gonna be honest, like the national anthem, that was one of my favorite things in the NFL because in college we weren't out for it, and in the NFL you go out and you stand there, and man, you stand at attention, and like you're as close to being in a military uniform as you're gonna get being in football pads. You know, it's a damn costume if you're not out there playing a game. And so you stand there and like you're about to do some violent stuff and some wild things, not near as dangerous as things are going on in the military. But when you would hear that, at least for me, and you served in the academy, and I played with Caleb Campbell, who played at West Point, served there, and was on the Lions with us. And man, he would stand at attention, no swaying, no movement, locked in. And I always had immense respect for that. Just knowing that what we got to go do from that point on, how impactful that was, and the reality we had a huge platform, and you get to do something in the United States of America, play a game and get compensated a lot for it, and tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people are watching you in person and millions watching across TV, and just to go out there and run around and play a kids game. So knowing that Pat was like a part of that, and he chose to turn that down to then go serve and ultimately giving his life like that, to me, man, it was always so powerful. So I would always think about that, you know, when we would play. And, you know, the thing, my father-in-law that served, honestly, Shikes, I think about you and going to the academy, my grandfather that served, and just all of the important stuff and all the great stuff out there that we have in this country. And so I'm sorry it's 2 days later and we're giving our PSA still for that, but I don't think you can ever talk too much about, you know, the great opportunities this country can afford and provide you, and the great people who have put themselves on the line to be able to make sure that you have that freedom that is out there, Slides.
And talk to your kids about it. I mean, there's a lot of kids that are going out. Like I remember at the Faith in Them graduation, the people that are going into the military, applaud them, man. Like, I mean, you don't want to go do it. They're doing it. They're choosing to serve. And it's a big thing. And I think it's something that we can't forget about. I just always remember, like my playlist, I mean, for a long, long time has always been the same. It was, I listened to the Braveheart soundtrack.
Last Mohicans.
And then Last Mohicans, right? Number 3, The Best. And then the national anthem. And every time it played, like for some reason, you know, Even Glory, great movie, but it was just like, you know, The Charge, right? And again, my dad took me to all these different Civil War battlefields growing up, which I had an immense enthusiasm for the history of warfare. Anyways, it was just like that would come out. And again, we're doing it in a very different way, but it's just you and your teammates. And then again, the quote, Bob, and you can say it because you always say it so great, you know, so perfectly, but it's basically like you don't fight for the hatred of those across from you, but for the love of those beside you. And we try to take those great qualities of the military and instill them into our players. And it's also something that we need to teach our children. That's just a servant mentality and a love for your teammate and your brother. And that's what we do. And so, you know, this is a great time. I have the picture. I'm super excited because I have it. I found it the other day going through boxes, and it was not up in my house because I didn't have an office. And so I'm like, nope, this is going up. So, and it was the picture. I think it was, and I apologize for this, man. Like it was I think it was Sergeant York from World War I and Murphy, I believe, from World War II. And then there was another one in Pat Tillman. It was just like, but somebody had gifted us that, Bob. And it was like, it was on a black matte, you know, finish. And it was just kind of the figureheads of these guys. And I just always remembered it. I thought it was very cool. And I was like, that's going back up in the house.
I love it, Shakes. That is
you got to find yours. I know. I think it was like one of 3. Maybe they made 4 of them, and
they made like 100 of them. We signed them, and he gave us.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. Oh, I've got mine hanging up. It's not in here. I think it's in either my basement or it's down at our river house. But yeah, I've got that hanging up. It's one of my more prized pieces there, Schlegs, pieces as well. A lot of big news, though, coming out of the SEC that we're going to get to. Greg Sankey talked a lot. Some of the coaches talked a lot about something, so I want to get into that too. First, I want to tell you about our friends over at Export. Attention, parents and athletes, protect what matters most with Export mouthguards, trusted by professional athletes and designed by NHL team dentists. Export mouthguards are scientifically tested to absorb those high-impact hits, protecting both your teeth and your brain. Export mouthguards feature 3 layers of advanced protection, including a patented use of carbon fiber, custom fit to your own unique smile with 3D printed technology. That means more protection, better performance, max comfort, and clear communication so you can focus on your game, not on your gear. Do not take chances with your safety. Go visit exportguards.com/BobbyDay and save 15% on your order. Export, protect what matters most. We've got more coming from the SEC and where college football let's throw that up there, Pat. The Sankey tweet from Andy Staples about everything. Let's take a listen to what Greg Sankey had to say at SEC Media Days.
To a certain degree. Talking about your ADs have said we've given up too much. You're sort of, again, in a position of thinking about the greater good of college football. That was talked about a lot from other commissioners last week when there was some decision. Seating, how do you balance what is best for the SEC with what is best for maybe giving up a little bit for the SEC would be better for the whole?
Look at a track record. We didn't need 12. Did we stayed at 4, we would have had half the 4 last year. I don't need lectures from others about good of the game. I don't lecture others about good of the game. And coordinating press releases about good of the game. Okay, you can issue your press statement, but I'm actually looking for ideas to move us forward. So Ralph, I'll go back and say, I thought the 12-team design was really well considered at the time. We never had a unanimous vote to support the 12-team playoff. Even though I was involved in that work, that didn't mean everybody in this league, when we were at 14, thought it was the best idea. But you engage in that type of problem solving. Our 8 or 9 game schedule that goes back to really 2018. We've been talking about eliminating divisions from 2018 forward, and we expanded. So it became a different conversation, and the shape of that conversation has changed over time. We have to make a decision. The CFP and my colleagues have to understand there's something different here. We all play college football. And so while you ask that of me, I'll go back and say, we didn't need a 12-team college football playoff. Thought it was good for the game. I was involved in that. Others held it up. I thought it was important to get after that work in a time-efficient manner, yet we held up, and then we went fast. We didn't go slow so we could go fast. We didn't do anything, and then we went fast without solving some of the other elements. I think I have a responsibility to push as well. And I think my membership has a responsibility and the desire to push me. And that is a hard issue. If you want to go inside what it's like to sit in this role, I think about the responsibility I have here. I think about the responsibility more broadly all the time. Yesterday, I said that we don't apologize here. I'm proud we have 13 games. I wish it was 14 in baseball. I'm proud of what we did in men's basketball. I'm proud that we have, I think it's 5 of 8. Is it 5 of 8 in softball? I actually think that can make other people better too. And when I go back to
we heard enough of it. We're good with the baseball, so let's talk football, Bob. Where do you want to go?
Well, I mean, there's some truth. There can be multiple things that can be true at the same time. And that's not like my truth, your truth, everyone's truth. There can be multiple things that are true about the same statement. Like Greg Sankey has a responsibility to the SEC.
100%.
Does he have a responsibility to the greater good of college football? I would argue that he does. All the commissioners hopefully do. But in doing so, he also needs it to make sure that it works for his conference. And his conference is one of the 2 most powerful conferences right now. He's not wrong in saying if we would have stayed at a 4-team last year, Schlegs, Ohio State wouldn't have gotten in. But there would have been 2 teams from the SEC and then 2 teams from the Big Ten, I believe. Because Notre Dame was 5th, if I'm not mistaken. I think it would have been Oregon, Texas, Georgia, and who was the other team that got the bye? Or no, Penn State, because it wasn't who got the bye.
Boise got a bye.
Yeah, but it wasn't that because they got jumped. I think it would have been Penn State sitting in that 4 hole, and I think that would have been 2 from the Big Ten, I believe, and 2 from the SEC.
I mean, and potentially Notre Dame would have jumped Penn State, but again, that would have gone back. That Penn State would have had their other loss coming from the conference championship game, and so why would you hurt them because they had to play an extra game to get in? So then you basically are like, you got 2 from the Big Ten, you got 2 from the SEC. Throw up the because I want to go more into this, but I want to allude with these questions. So go to the next one. It says Heather on Sankey.
Well, hold on, because that's another. Hold on, Strikes. There's a lot. Listen, you like.
Well, I know I was going to use that, but if you don't,
still more here. There's still more here that you need to get into.
Okay, so here I'll get into it. I just like the questions that he asked. Here's what I'm going to say. The thing is this: he is responsible for the SEC, and they are one of the best conferences. Tony Petitti is responsible for the Big Ten, and they're one of the best conferences. And so when you go look at how you're going to make this up, they have to have their interest in their conferences because that's who they represent. And when you talk about the good of the game, you can selfishly be the good of the Big Ten and also the good of the game. But the thing that I took away from what Sankey said was, you got a lot of people that want to have a perfect plan and execute it next week. And he said, we didn't go slow to go fast. We didn't do nothing. And then we just went really fast to get something out there. That to me is not necessarily somebody that wants to do anything better for the game. It's a bunch of people that are scared to do the right thing for the game because they think that they still have to create a system that's going to be fair to all parties. We talked about, let's go look at even the SEC, and you have Vanderbilt is in the SEC.
Yep.
I really don't give 2 craps about Vanderbilt. They don't want to spend the money. They're landlocked in Nashville.
Well, they are doing a stadium renovation right now.
Okay, but it's smaller. But are they going to be able to hang with the big boys all the time? You can't make something for all people. I was looking at another thing. People were talking about these other group of 5s and stuff. Listen, I think it's very simple how you do this, and it is for the good of the game, and it's good for the conferences. You go to a 10-game conference schedule. You have to play another Power 4. You can also then play another group of 5. Group of 5, guess what? Play 2. Play 2 Power 4s. Raise up your level of competition. Win your conference. Go undefeated. You got a seat at the table, right? In the tourney. Winning cures everything, so go freaking win, and let's put the best in there. That's kind of where I stand on it. The other thing that you look at, it's never going to be fair from a playing level perspective because not every university has the same rules and how they roll out what they do in an athletic program. That's the athletic program's responsibility to be competitive. At Ohio State, it's up to Ross Bjork to go through, how do I increase the revenue or the money in which I can spend or allocate resources with? Number one conversation. How do I get cost of goods for an academic scholarship to where I'm paying cost plus 10% of what that looks like? I guarantee you the university has not been in depth of what actually, and this is how I look at business. What does a room cost? You go to Independence Hall, right? Is that what it's called? The 200-seater one right there on the Oval that I was always late for? How much does it cost? I got 200 students. I got one professor. How much does that actually cost? How much is that room to rent for an hour? How much is that teacher cost for that hour? How much money do I want to make off of that room per hour? What is the cost of a degree at Ohio State? Ohio State athletics, in my opinion, having 36 sports should play cost plus 10%. That's going to free up a lot more money for you to spend on the other things. The other thing that you should do is own your brand. Not give it away. Use those assets that you have, not only your personnel, the players, of all sports, but
Mhm.
all of the other things that you have, the inventory that is the shot, that is, Ohio Stadium, that is the tennis courts and all this stuff. Use all of those things for your branding. Go out there and use your trademark to generate revenue for trademark and licensing that is involved in athletics and the people that do so. So there's a lot. Like, the problem is everybody just wants to see what is good for everybody. And that's not how you should do it. It should always be, raw should be what's good for Ohio State. And what's good for Ohio State, guess what? Better be what's good for the Big Ten, because we're the flag bearer of the Big Ten. And that's where Tony Petitti should be. Now you look at the SEC, it should be like, I got this group of people, like, we're already playing good ball. You've done a good job with your contracts. You got ESPN. ESPN wanted the Big Ten because they got more eyeballs, but we lost that because of Kevin Warren. That's why we hired Tony Petitti, right? He ran the CEO of the MLB network. He was, the chief operating officer for Major League Baseball. Like, he has a better understanding than Kevin Warren did as to where we can go. The easiest thing is this is why, in my honest opinion, you need a commissioner. But the thing is, like, none of these people want to give up the power to have a governing body, which there's other questions of, like, why are we even in the NCAA? They do nothing that progresses the game, that's in the best interest of the game of college football. So there's a lot more underlying things than people focusing on what's best for the SEC and what he is or is not doing that promotes the game. The problem is everybody is siloed, trying to do what's in their own best interest. And honestly, what's in the best interest for all should be, like, I won't even say the 4-2. It should just be conferences aren't equated, because you can have a good year in the Big Ten and a bad year in the SEC. And we saw that. And the good teams that you thought were in the SEC got both rates the first week. Facts. So it's not all equal every single year just because you think it's hard in your conference. I kind of like conference champ, eliminate the conference games, conference champs, boom. Then I got 11, or I got 12. Have at it. Schedules. Another way, put it on the field. Winning matters. Win your games.
When your games, winning matters. And so what his point was when he was talking about the games, and it's funny because Penn State and Texas weren't penalized for losing their conference championship games, so they probably would have both been out in a 14 playoff. But like Greg Sankey, they've done an immense job winning in the 14 playoff, more than anyone else had. So, like,
more than anybody else.
His thing was like, we made a concession and went to 12. And he was always trying to push to do expansion. And heck, they probably didn't want to go to a full 12. Maybe they did. I'm not sure. But he's like, we weren't trying to, no one wanted to work on anything until all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, now just do it. Now we need money. Now we need to figure it out. It's like, not go slow to go fast. It was be paralyzed by fear. And then let's just, fall lemmings off a cliff. And so I get it. He's like, you're telling me about good of the game. We didn't need to do 12 teams.
No.
There was no incentive for them. I mean, it helped Ohio State this year. It helped the Big Ten more than it helped the SEC. So, yeah. So I think this is where we're getting into this dichotomy, and we'll get into this here next. As you start looking, especially within the Big Ten, of like, does Ohio State throw enough weight? And I think that they're starting to with Ross and President Carter.
What he's doing.
I think that that's a big piece of, hey, we do a lot. They put us on Big Noon all the time. They do this, they do that. We're the flag bearer here. And so we need to be able to be involved with the decisions more so. Not everybody's getting an equal vote anymore. Like, we should be the ones that are trying to dictate that. Oregon, hey, you can dictate stuff. You guys came and you're adding value to the conference. Penn State, probably. Michigan, probably. Like, and right now USC, you don't get as much because you know why? You went 7-5 and 8-5, and no one cares right now about what's going on in California. We added you guys for the LA market when we draw better than you do out there. So there's all those different things that are coming into play. But I think what he kind of said, the quiet part out loud, is people tell me about good of the game. We didn't need to go bigger. And so he then also is tasked with making sure that he can get all his school's money and the AD's money. Because I don't know if you saw this. There's a bunch of cuts last year at Texas A&M and their athletic department. After Ross left, there's a bunch of cuts at Oklahoma and their athletic department, 10 to 15 staffers or whatever it is moving forward. And so there's a financial element to this as you're beginning to pay players. Now, that's why we're getting these auto bids. So we're going to take a quick break. Coming back, Heather Dinich had a great tweet out about some of the things that she heard from the coaches, because the coaches aren't the ADs and the coaches aren't the commissioners. They want to just coach football and how they think it should look. We'll hear about that here coming up next. All right, welcome back in the Bobby Carpenter Show. Please like, subscribe, leave your comments, questions. We appreciate all of it. Little intense show right here as Greg Sankey and the coaches are down there talking at SEC Media Days. And the thing is, like Schleiks, you didn't hear, Big Ten has to do a better job of publicizing this. I don't know where they did the coaches one, whether it's in Chicago or LA. Like they have this thing down in Sandestin. Now you've got a great region to go to. It's beautiful, but they're outside. They have their commissioner speaking multiple times a day. You have coaches speaking.
Big Ten does it?
I don't know. They've done some stuff in California now, and it's kind of falling flat because no one out there cares. And so then it's a haul for everybody to fly out there to go do it. I don't know what the best place would be. Maybe Indy. If you put it now, you don't have like a place like Sandestin. I mean, if you had North Carolina, you could go to Chapel Hill, and like that'd be pretty nice. But there's really no southern place outside of California, but no one in California cares.
No doubt.
So we were talking about, the 4-4-4.
No, 4-4-2-2-1-3.
Yeah, I guess I count 4 because Big 12 and ACC, they're getting 2 apiece. 1 for the automatic for the group of 5, and then 3, the 3 at large. And people said, why don't you just seed them 1-5 with 16 and go with that? Now you want guarantees, and I know you want a group of 5 school in there and all those different things. But Heather Dinich, we can throw this up, talked to some of the coaches. And so that's the ADs. Heather Dinich said, Greg Sankey said that he had an in-depth conversation with the league coaches today about the 16-team model and that they would include the 5 conference champions, that 11 at-large teams. He called the 5-11 to own our ability to earn those berths, he said. At the coaching level, the question is, why wouldn't that be fine? Why wouldn't we want to do that? And that was my argument. It's like, heck, you might get your conference champ in 4 at-larges or maybe 5. In any given year, depending on how good it is. Some years it might be a champ in 3. Some years it might be a champ in 2, like it was, or 4, whatever. But you could have more. But the coaches look at it as like, especially if you're in one of the big conferences, dude, we're the big dog. We go eat anyway, so we're not scared. And so this strikes is, I think, where you see some of the posturing here with Tony Petitti and Greg Sankey saying, "Hey, this is what we want." Guarantees, because those guys are responsible for the finances and the athletic director, and the coaches are saying, that's fine, dude. We deserve to be in there. Like, let's go earn it. Let's go get it.
Well, here's my only pushback, even from the coaches, because again, they're competitive. It's why they coach. But when you look at the best interests of your conference, and you said it, like, you got to go get that money, especially if you share it like they do, then having 4 is better. It allows you to make your conference better. I think that, like, we all want, if you want better TV matchups, have 10 conference games and make them all impactful. You know what I mean? Like, good on good every single week. That's what you want. And guess what? You're going to go earn it, but you're going to go earn your seeding. And the reason I say this is because you had a two-loss Big 12 champion, right? Did you? I wonder, ACC. You had a 3-loss ACC champion in Clemson. Georgia, I believe, only lost. No, they might have lost twice too. I'm trying to remember who they lost to. They didn't lose to Texas. They lost to Alabama. I don't know if that. Now, the hits have come in. I think they were a 2-loss, right? Oregon undefeated, obviously, right? That's why they were the 1 seed. So when you go look at that, you're playing the best ball. I understand. Hey, we're just going to go get it, but when you do that, a team that has a fake record, and I'll put it this way: the SMU, the Indiana, right? We saw it in the first round. Not that Indiana State played a Big Ten, SMU played an ACC, no unranked teams. At least Indiana had a ranked team. But they got boat raced in the first one, and they're automatically all the way up there just because they're in the conference. Like, the strength of schedule was not even. So there's things that you have to take in consideration when you judge the other 11. And that's kind of where I am with it. And that's why I don't mind them going the 4-4-2-2-1-3 model, is because those 4, like, if you're going to do that, then make sure that your conference is always on top. And that's more of a Tony Petitti and Greg Sankey saying, like, no, we're going to invest everything into our conferences. Our schools are all in on putting out the best product that they possibly can to have 4 really good competitive teams. And going back to your point, Bob, you made a great point from what I missed it in there. So you should have just brought it up at the very beginning because then I went on a tangent. But the fact that he has been doing, that's what he was saying. I have been doing everything for the good of the game because I didn't have to go. Honestly, a 14 playoff does us a better competitive advantage because we've had some of the best ball. And we don't have to share it with anybody else. We could have 2 of the 4 teams. I would love to go back and look it up. I did not because you just mentioned it. But I wonder how many times they've had 2 of the 4. And so now the likelihood of winning
a couple
the
times.
championship is always 50%, you know? So again, I look at that. I think that they have. I think that his frustration is people are trying to put a false narrative around how he's made concessions, and other people are trying to do what's best for their conference, but he definitely isn't going to stand to where it puts his conference in a predicament to where they could potentially lose money. And he also has to hold back his coaches from, well, we're just going to go earn it. Well, if the competition is so good in your conference, there's going to be attrition. It's why you see people that are second in the, AFC or NFC and they have 3 losses. Like their conference that year could have been really good. They split it, but they beat the other divisions. It's just how it works.
Oh yeah, absolutely, Schlegs. And that's all part of it. And so that they're trying to figure all that out and work through that all right now.
The problem is who's the voice that's bringing them to the table?
Well, and that's the problem is who's governing and shepherding all of this. And Greg Sankey's like, why are you putting this all on me? I'm not in charge of all of college football right now. Want to tell you about.
You should have said, why don't you make me? I'll be
I don't
it.
think he wants that job. Like you have to be able to have that job, and to do it right, you have to have the authority to get it done. And until someone grants you the authority and the legal power to do it, then that's what you need, because that's not what they had before. I want to tell you about a cool new Buckeye brand that we've been talking about, backerbckr.com, the premium Buckeye hats and jackets, founded by fans for better quality fan gear. Maybe costs a little bit more than your typical fan gear, but that's because it's better quality. It's a better product. One of the great products I love this time of year, wore it last weekend, was the lightweight pullover they have. Unbelievable functionality, all the stuff in the pockets, great things they have. It's breathable. It's got UV protection, all the stuff that you're looking through there. Schlegs. Their stuff is high quality, like the tennis and fishing and golfing gear that you see out there. So go to their website, bckr.com. A portion of the proceeds goes back to the student athletes. And when you use promo code Bobby, all caps, BOBBY, you get free expedited shipping. Again, that's backer, bckr.com. Check them out. Now, our headlines brought to you by our friends at Lakespur Marketing. Lakespur, their full-service ad agency built on trust, strategy, and performance. The Lakespur team shields you and your team from outside noise, the cold calls, the stuff you don't want to do. They let you work on your business and do a great job of that. They've got the experience you're looking for, over a century in experience. Lakespur, their team eliminates on budget and eliminates that waste for you. They don't chase the clicks. They build partnerships. Lakespur Marketing, the proof is in their partners. All right, Schlegs, one of the great performances of all time happened May 25th, 1936. Happened by a Buckeye, a guy who was born in Alabama but grew up in Cleveland. The track behind the Woody Hayes facility is named for him, and there's a giant statue out there as well. And that is Mr. Jesse Owens. Now, May 25th, 36, I believe it is. He did the unthinkable. 35. I believe this was at the Big Ten championships, and then he reset and broke them all again, because the 36 was the Olympics. So this was, I believe, the Big Ten or NCAAs. In 45 minutes, broke 4 records, Schlegs, with long jump, 100, 200, and the 4x1. Pretty remarkable feat that he was able to put together. And obviously a unbelievable performance in the Berlin Olympics. And one of the great athletes. You could argue, him and Usain Bolt and what he did for a social impact as well in Berlin, staring in the face of Hitler and Nazi Germany, putting that on stage is maybe the most impactful and greatest track athlete of all time.
Yeah, could you imagine what that would look like today on social media? You know, I mean, back then, I mean, like we can't even fathom how that would look and feel, and you know, the hatred that he probably faced, and like he's not just going against the competitors that are on the track; he's going against an entire country. Just totally different ball game, like something that we couldn't. You can't even go back and try to like rationalize or fathom what he was facing, and then you know, being a Buckeye, doing it, breaking world records before you even go over there, just amazing.
Wow. Unbelievable stuff, man. And he's something that he's got his name prominently displayed around Ohio Stadium and the Ohio State campus. And it should be as many places as you can possibly have it for the impact that he had both on the track and then obviously throughout the world as well.
I love our group chat. I just keep putting in Buckeyes. These guys are great.
Absolutely. We got a lot of great questions that came out of the group chat. So we'll get those answered in our tailgate talk here coming up next in the Bobby Carpenter Show. All right, welcome back into the Bobby Carpenter Show. It's our headline or our tailgate talk brought to you by our friends over at Real Truck and Schlegs. We've got a great one that came in today from Chris Kersey, and we were talking a little bit about some of the games and everything else, game times, and we've talked about that, and Fox and what they mean, ESPN with the SEC. And Chris throws in there, is Fox Big Noon a good thing or a bad thing for the long term of Ohio State football?
I think it's a bad thing, or I can honestly say it's a nullified thing. No, it's a bad thing because we don't get any more money for it. And it's hard for recruits to get there on a Saturday morning, especially in season. And the fact that you lose out on the environment, how special it is to play at night in the shoe with our fans. In today's college football travesty that we are handcuffed to a big noon startup game because of TV contracts. And we are the ones that are the bell cow for the entire Big Ten, and everybody else gets to reap the rewards of our work. Don't like it. It should be a meritocracy. So because we're the ones that are on there all the time, Fox, you pick our games all the time, we should get more money.
So Chris Kersey said, also goes on to say, Schlegs, when you say neither, is that because you don't believe new times make a difference or the brand or recruiting? Because I want to tell you this, it's hard to get recruits in nationally for noon games. That's a reality. You're not going to be able to get in that morning. A lot of the players that obviously play on Friday nights. And I will tell people this, it's just frankly a better environment for night games. Now, is there other logistical elements that the coaches have to deal with? Yeah, that are negative and that can hurt, but it's a much better environment for the night games. Like I've been to a lot of the games. I know people love noon games and that's great. So you can go get there early, you get done with your day and it's all over with. But for people that view those days like I do, Schlegs, as an event and it's event-based programming for me, when it's a big game and it's an appropriate night game, I think it is a massive advantage in recruiting and environment and everything else that comes along with that.
I completely concur. That's why I think initially I said neither was because it's neither if you play the appropriate noon games at the appropriate noon games and you play the appropriate night games at the appropriate night games. And that, like, honestly, that legislator put it out there. I know it's fake and whatever, but I mean, the fact that you got a top 5 matchup and you're playing it at noon. Well, who the Sam Dickens wrote that up, man? That's terrible. I mean, like the West Coast is barely waking up. It's 9 a.m. and they're going to throw on Texas, Ohio State.
Well, and here's the thing. People in the SEC, and I've got friends that work down there, went to LSU and Bama and Georgia and everything. And he's like, they like watching Ohio State football. And especially if they're playing, the Penn States, if they're playing at Texas or something like that, and you're putting that game on at noon, you're losing those people that are on the central time. They're getting up, got to be 11. They joke about like having brunch during the game. I mean, so it stinks from that standpoint, Schlegs.
They're not even able to go out there, go to Waffle House, come home, grab a Monster Dickel. Like, they can't even do that. Like they're just still sipping on their coffee. I mean, maybe they got some Baileys in there, but it's the same.
Absolutely. Buckeye Schlangs. Well, there's some other great questions in there. We got a lot of that stuff. Thank you guys for the participation today. Fun show coming up next. Schleg's going to wrap up the show with his parting thoughts. Welcome back into the Bobby Carpenter Show and Schlegs. Let's finish it off with your parting thoughts.
Yeah, I don't really have any parting thoughts today because I don't have enough time. No, I'm going to say this because, Bob, we got to figure out, because there's some really great content that we got from Vrabel and like Urban and different interviews and culture that we like to give to you guys because it matters. It's applicable in business. But I would say this, in doing business and doing ball, make sure that you work out the processes. One of the best qualities that I think Jim Tressel has is that he asks the question, why? Probably 5, 6, 7 times to where you come up with the answer. Do not be afraid to be devil's advocate. Do not be afraid to be rational and ask as many questions as you possibly can, because one, it's going to validate it to yourself, and two, it's going to validate to the person that you're asking, because if they don't know the answer, then their solution probably is terrible.
I like it, Schlegs. That is your parting thought and your little nugget of wisdom. Stay locked in here. Big show coming up on Thursday.